Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are excited to be here today. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning. We hope you guys are having a fantastic time. We've got a Bitcoin on the charts right now, and with this in mind, we're going to take a quick look and dive in and give you a little bit of a heads up for what we think might be coming. Now, again, this is just conjecture, but seems to work more than you would expect. Okay, there we go. We're back. We're back in the game now. Whew, Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin. Everyone knows this. Well, at least I would hope so. If you don't yet, Bitcoin. What a fantastic journey it's always been. You know, philosophically, conceptually speaking, yesterday when we had Didi on the show, I think it's a great example of the people that are invested in this space. And the reason why we're here is not just to make money. At least the original investors, the people that started joining this space a long time ago, they were not the Moon and Lambo kids. They were specifically looking for a way to empower everyone through the process of decentralization. I think that's a really important part to keep note of. So if you didn't see the interview with Didi and the Bitcoin family dad yesterday, please check that out. It was a fantastic interview or podcast. Didi and I got along really, really well. Been friends for a few years, so make sure you check that out as well. He's got just such a great story, very, very moving. Anyways, let's take a look at Bitcoin's price movement and some of the potentials that are here in the future. Now, everyone's getting excited about the bull market being here. And this is what, look, I don't want to sound like a pessimist. It really doesn't feel all that good. But there's I should have opened this up a little earlier, but I'll give some fairly in-depth conjecture here about Bitcoin's price. See back here on December 17th, 2017, there's actually something really important that happened that day. CME futures fourth dimension. So I'm going to open up this guy's article. This is a great article. It's talking about the manipulation of price in Bitcoin during the last drop. So let's take a look at some of the charts here. See, on this, the Bitcoin futures started exactly on December 17th, 2017. So here we go. Here's the top, exactly December 17th, 2017. This is the first time that you could effectively open shorts on CME futures against Bitcoin's price, at least in the regulated markets. Now that slammed us down quite quickly. Again, from the top of that CME conjecture to the bottom of that trend, that was a 70% or 70% drop, essentially, give or take a few percentage points, right? So now that we're starting to see the potentials of an ETF, the futures actually start to expire again on Bitcoin, I believe May 31st. So in about 2 days from now, is that correct? May 31st, Bitcoin futures expire. Now, what time does CME futures expire? Bitcoin future quotes. Yeah, I believe it's on the 31st of May, although did I type 32nd? That's not going to help anyone. There's no 32nd of May, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Here's the futures expiration dates. I think this is important to keep an eye on for a few reasons. Do we have Bitcoin CBOE futures? And yeah, here we go, on the 31st of May. So we have a really big date coming up here in about 2 days to keep an eye on. This is when everyone's going to want to make sure their shorts and their longs are covered, essentially. Now, a big part of the problem here is that these can be naked shorts. As far as I know, these are not actually covered by Bitcoin themselves. Now that's what Bakkt has been working on doing, is making sure that everything that's in the ecosystem is actually covered. It's the same thing that T0 is working on as well, so that there's no naked shorting. Again, naked shorting is a really, really great way to kind of ruin the price point of a product, because people are interested in the sentimentals. So if you can change the sentiment of the market, you can change the price. You know, there's a lot of conjecture about the wash trading that's going on in the background too for our particular price at the moment too. So again, a very important date is coming up on the 31st, because again, when we've looked in the past here, exactly the day of the CME futures expiration on December 17th, blam! Shot us right back down. Now I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. I'm just saying it's important to keep an eye open on both directions. Now, people always get a little upset. They're like, oh, you said it was going to $1,000. It's like, well, you know, I really kind of feel sorry for people that think Bitcoin's the only way that they can make money. It's the only way they're going to be successful in life. It's really uncommon to think, but you got to remember, whoever made the little plastic thing that kept bread bags closed probably will make more money than you ever will from Bitcoin, unless you, right? Because there's a real incentive to create a product and service that create value for other people. Now, I don't like plastic and bread bags, the bread closer, or the bread it fucking self. So none of these products and services were actually ever useful to me. But in the long run, again, it's not about me. It's about understanding what the community at large is interested in. So again, what's important here is that even though, you know, we could easily say, let's moon and Lambo ourselves to the top here, right? So let's actually just take a look at wave one projection. So we've actually hit from the top of wave one, and for those of you that know how much I love the Fibonacci chart, even though I don't use it as often because I don't find it as necessary in some of the faster trading we do in the private bear den. What's really interesting here is we've stubbed up against the 2618 line. So I think the next really big room of conjecture is, well, to the upside, we could easily run to 10,845. Now we thought we'd actually we'd bump up a little closer to $9,000 on this first run, which we didn't do. We thought we would actually go straight to $9,200 again. So we're proving that there is a bit more weakness in the market than was originally anticipated. Now, again, the weakness in the market anticipation was like, okay, well, we didn't think we would break it through $6,000. I really thought we would turn around there because there's so much resistance. But what I failed to take into account is that we are all irrational. Every single human being is very irrational. We have to be. We live in a ball of ice and rock floating through space, flying at unimaginable speeds. If we tried to rationalize what's actually happening, it's scary as fuck. There's no form of security. There's no form of understanding. Everything is well beyond our normal levels of comprehension. So what I'm going to say is that we can start to expect that the irrational is going to become normal. So instead of charting normally, I'm just going to chart irrationally like we had done last year. During the bear market, it made more sense to chart rationally, right? So on the downside, I think there's a lot. See, everyone's going to give me shit for this. But there still seems like there's a reasonable affluence that will come down to test the $3,000, $4,000 area. 4,500 is currently where your 200-day EMA is currently sitting on the daily again. But again, there's always this kind of flicker in the back of my mind that we'd go to $2,200. So again, what I'm suggesting here isn't, oh, wait to throw everything in at $2,000. I think what the problem of most people didn't get the chance of understanding was if you only have $5,000, like again, you have to remember the variety of people that actually follow the Arcane Bear is vast. We focused on quality, not quantity. I actually scare a lot of people away from this channel on fucking purpose, because if you don't have the intelligence to understand what it is I'm saying and to view that point of conjecture without attaching yourself to it emotionally, I don't really want you here necessarily. But with that in mind, there are those of you that can intelligently decipher what I'm saying, realize that there's both up and downside potential to anything that you do in life, and make your own risk adjustments. Again, everyone's portfolio, the way they diversify is going to be completely different for them. Everyone has to take in different things. Again, we're trying to grow a business here at the Arcane Bear. So there's employees, we got to look at future growth, how we manage those people, and all the nonsense, because who want to shit about nonsense in the background. So the point of this is, I think we'll probably run to $11,000 now. We're just going to have this crazy parabolic dip up. Then just like the back in the CME futures days, I think we might see that 70% retracement slam back down. Because you have to remember, the big boys, A, don't want it to go up, and B, can make a shit ton of money while it's going down. So if you enter a short from there and we drop back down to 4,200, that's a 67% retracement, almost identical to here. So is that going to happen? I'm not sure. Can't say exactly, but it's a possibility. All we try to do here is look at potentials and possibilities. That way we're aware of anything that might be able to happen instead of just getting our panties wet. I couldn't think of a better analogy at the moment, but instead of just getting everything all wet and juicy and thinking, oh yeah, it's just going to go to $100,000. Of course it is. There's institutional investors, there's quant trading, high frequency movers, all the big money's coming in. Billionaires want Bitcoin. If only one person, if all we need is 21 million people to try to buy one Bitcoin and game over, right? That's what we think. That's a very obvious and logical answer to go and sit behind. It makes a lot of sense. But it's always important to understand the downside. Now, these are all asymmetrical bets. So for those of you that don't know what that means, it essentially means it could be worth nothing, or it could be worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. So no matter where you get an entry, I think an entry is important, because it means even if you have just $100 in there, you're going to make the first few steps to really understanding what Bitcoin is, why it's powerful, and how you can store it safely. That step alone is worth more than actually owning Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. Education and information almost always trumps physical assets, because your skill set you can take with you. Many times people will make $1 million and they'll lose $1 million. If you haven't done that yet, you don't know. And if you don't know, well then what the hell kind of experience do you have? If you haven't been bankrupt, if you haven't tried to push really hard to get a business to go beyond what you thought was even humanly possible, because that's what you should be trying to do on this planet, is to push things beyond the normal limits of comprehension. That's what is always happening here. So the point of what I'm trying to say is, because these are asymmetrical bets, its ability to go to 1,000 or 0 or $1,200 doesn't really make a difference in my mind. These are all good entry points for the person that has none. Because what you should be doing if you have none is, again, investing in your understanding. So I'm assuming that most of the people that are following the Arcane Bear have more than none. Well, I can see that by the private trading group. We have a private trading group. It's full of amazing people. Again, here, actually check this out. You guys can see my screen. I wanted to show you this. Here's some of the screenshots from testimonials I've been taking shots of from the private Bear Den. You know, here we go. Say I joined the private Bear Den, only 0.65 BTC. Now I have over 4.5. So happy, thanks to the Arcane Bear family. Here's this one. This hands down the best, most supportive group that I've ever been a part of. Other groups, if you ask a question because you honestly don't know something, people you get made fun of, but not here. Here we've got another one that says, you can see why I bought a year's membership up front, because there wasn't a 2-year button. I love that one. It's probably one of my favorite. And he also then just said about, what is this, an hour or two later, I made my year's sub the first day. Not bad for a plumber. So I want to remind everyone that if you are interested in learning more and growing as a community, the Arcane Bear private Telegram is designed for that. We do a monthly newsletter. We do bear updates. We're producing chapters for a book on how to trade, how to understand Fibonacci and the EMA. So we're just relentlessly throwing as much content at the community as possible, because we want you guys to be able to get as much value from it as from one another. Anyways, the point of this is the conjecture of being able to build your portfolio comes down to a few different keys in your understanding of your risk assessment, right? So if you only want to buy Bitcoin, which is probably the best investment you can make in terms of long-term hold. Now, I was writing the private newsletter last night, and we just finished it and sent it off to the designers. And sadly, I had to include BSV. So last night, I was writing about Bitcoin Satoshi's vision when it was what? It was down here at 1,200 Satoshis. It's gone up almost 50%, maybe even a little bit more than that since we started writing. Yeah, 60 at its high, even went to almost 70% today. Just absolutely absurd. Now, the reason I included this is, well, baby Bitcoin. But it's important to remember that if you're going to focus on one thing, you need to hedge your bets. For instance, investing in Tron isn't hedging a bet for Bitcoin, right? They have nothing to, they're not even close to the fucking same entity at all. Not even the same type of beast. Not even close. Not in my mind. Everyone else may have a different conjecture, but this is my opinion, right? I'm sharing with you currently my opinion. So, because of that, I've always speculated that holding one-to-one BSV and BCH to BTC is important, because they are all Bitcoin. Now, I've actually extended that viewpoint for the private members into looking for undervalued assets. Now, BSV and Bcash, these are both not undervalued. Well, actually, Bcash or BSV was undervalued here. It was at a very, very low point comparison to where it had been. They didn't need to inject a whole lot to get it to jump. But the point of this is, finding what's comfortable for your asset portfolio allocation is really up to you, because everyone's different. So when I'm looking at Bitcoin, I'm thinking about this space as an entirety, not just, oh, I own Bitcoin. If I'm focused on owning Bitcoin, I have to add, even though I hate Craig Wright and Roger Ver, not personally, but because of how ridiculous they are, but I also am ridiculous. So that's probably why I recognized it. I'm like, oh, look at these two fucktards. Just fucktard like me. Anyways, the point is, I want to make sure that everyone knows I don't think I'm better than any of these people. I recognize that there's shit disturbance, because I also have a level of shit disturbance in my own being, right? So I never bet against controversy. As a matter of fact, in 2014, 2015, I started telling people Donald Trump was going to be president, and people wanted to bet me. And I made bets. I won them. You know who you are. anyways, the point of this story is I don't bet against controversy, and people like Craig Wright, well, Roger Ver is not as good at causing controversy. He causes controversy around himself instead of the things that he's interested in, whereas Craig Wright has been a little bit more Donald Trump-esque about the shit that he does. He's very arrogant, doesn't care, just rallies the troops for no particular reason. And I don't bet against controversy. So if I don't bet against it, it means I'm betting on it. Controversy can do a lot, for better or for worse. Anyways, point of this is, when I'm looking at Bitcoin, I'm hedging often by not excluding the things that were basically given to us one-to-one in the ecosystem as you sat there. My goal here is to stay on top of the waves that are happening, right? So for instance, I don't think, you know, anyone that's been a fan of the show for a long time knows that the Bear family is focused on more deeper forms of wealth, like, you know, the personal love that you share for one another, the development of self, how you breathe, how you walk. These are all really, really important areas that I think are way more valuable than money. And you don't need money to focus on it. You don't need money to go outside, sit down, and start breathing real deeply. You need nothing to do that, yet it will make your life much richer when you do so. So as much as I like those things, I try to incorporate both of these concepts into the same idea, which means there is a unified force behind what Bitcoin is. Whether they are baby Bitcoin forks such as controversy behind BSV or Bcash ABC, as much as I don't like the talking heads that sit in front of them, I can't ignore the thesis as a whole, because then I'm ignoring the concept. And that's the only reason why I invested in Bitcoin. Look, you can very well guarantee I'm not the person that was going to go to Reddit and fucking Bitcoin talk, because I don't fucking care. I'm busy. I was practicing taking ayahuasca and playing music and doing yoga. Like, I don't give a shit about some tech stuff. But what allowed me to see Bitcoin back in the day wasn't tech. It was the concept. I think a lot of people struggle to understand certain aspects in this area, but I think the more you focus on the concept and the philosophical values, like I have, if that's who you are, then it's a lot easier to see why these types of plays and investment strategies work out well. So for Bitcoin to the upside, I think we could shoot up to the 3618, and again, this is where the volume profile starts to break off again. We could probably even dip up to almost 11,000 in terms of like candle spikes. But again, you know, this to me represents the prime opportunity for a big Bitcoin smackdown. So look, again, I'm going to take a look. First off, hey, if you guys haven't yet, please follow us on tradingview.com. If you guys are interested in the indicators that we use, you can download them for free. Please remember to give us a thumbs up here on either the Bear Claw or the Eagle Crossing. The Bear Claw is this nice, fun, colorful one you see here with the red and the greens and purples. These are both basically stacked EMAs. From there, you can actually, let's go back to this one. Yes, from there, Eagle Crossing actually just shows a crossing of the golden and death crosses as well. So you can download both of these. We do use them. We're going to be adding to these scripts as we grow. And again, you can, from here, we've been doing a little bit of ideas. So we will be posting some of our intermediate stuff on here. This will all be free. Again, nothing that the private Bear Den members get end up here, but we do like to build TradingView up. TradingView is a great place. It's a really nice community, and more I've actually started to find myself spending more time there. So make sure you check out TradingView. Anyways, the point of this is, where was I going? Yes, Magic Poop Cannon, the MPC. Now, Magic Poop Cannon gets a lot of flack, right? Because he's sitting in the same boat that I'm sitting, which is basically that I'm saying there's still downside potential for around anywhere between $1,000 and then $3,000. Now, the problem is when you hear people give people flack for stuff like that, it means they probably haven't been successful in the first place. Logical strategists who have been playing in this game for a long time know very well how to exit and enter markets without getting emotional. Every time you say some dumb shit like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't listen to you and bought at $3,200, it means you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Because if you really understand this space, you want to remove as much emotion as possible and try to come up with a logical explanation through as much aggregated content and data as humanly possible. That's how you get closer to the truth. So Magic Poop Cannon is here looking again at the same things that we had mentioned last time. The NVT is maxed, the highest that it's ever been currently, and the MFI flow also some of the highest points it's ever been. And in the past, these red markers in the NVT have represented breakdowns in price, right? So the fact that we're seeing the NVT the hottest it's ever been isn't necessarily a great sign. But again, you're starting to see a potential institutional FOMO, which is one of the reasons why we have this target up of around $11,000, maybe even $12,000 on some crazy spikes. But institutional FOMO knows very well that if they decide to take a short here and pull in another 65% on the downtrend, they don't give a fuck what price Bitcoin is up or down at. And that's the point. You have to remember that the big boys can make money on either side of the trade. So they don't want it to just keep going up. It's in their best interest to smash it back down to some degree, pick up all the pieces from all the people that got caught out in a potential bear trap again. Now, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but to me, this represents a very real possibility. And again, I don't care personally. Like, I personally don't care whether Bitcoin goes to $50,000 or whether it goes to $1,000 in the next 2 months. I don't care. The reason I don't care is because I'm actually severely invested and interested in the work that I am doing. So for any of you that are in the bear Telegram, you know probably better than anyone the work that it is that we're at. A lot of the time we're spending our energy and money on isn't in the blockchain space necessarily. It's in a little bit of a tweaked version of how I think we can converge two waves. Anyways, I don't want to get too deep into that. The point of this is there's obviously room for upside in Bitcoin, right? This would represent another 20% to the upside. But these parabolic moves, it doesn't happen where you see a move like this without some type of retracement. So eventually we're going to come dropping back down, whether it's down to the $6,600 area or whether it's even further down to the $1,200 area from 12,000. Who knows? We won't know until we get to that point. That's why technical analysis is best to do every day unless you're a long-term investor. If you're a long-term investor, dollar cost averaging is essentially the best way to go. So if you have $5,000, and again, that's not really an investor's portfolio. Look, if you have $5,000, you're like a newbie still, right? Anyone in the game has accidentally lost $1 million probably along the way. So if you're worried about it, my best guess for you from what I've been able to ascertain from everybody from all different wavelengths of portfolio evaluation is to first off make your first $100 entry and figure out what the hell Bitcoin is, and then go from there. Maybe it's $200 a week. Instead of just waiting for that perfect entry for your $5,000, which you'll never fucking get, by the way, because no perfect entry exists. It's best to just broad spectrum make an analysis of how well you can adjust risk assessment, right? So over the next year, if Bitcoin goes to $50,000 or if Bitcoin goes to $2,000, these are both potential, right? So you have to make your own risk adjustment based off these potentials. Again, these are not what's going to happen. These are the potentials of what could happen. So I think so many people get confused. They hear the one word of Bitcoin's going to $1,000 and they're like, oh my God, that's it. I'm going to wait just for this. Instead of realizing that I've said like 10 other things that show the potential in both up and down, intermediate and long-term projections, because in my long-term outlook, since we've started this channel, I've said almost synonymously that Bitcoin could very possibly go to millions of dollars per Bitcoin. That's always been on the table from this channel. I've never once taken that off. And the reason I haven't is because I believe that the inflation that's taking place in the US dollar is going to run rampant at one point. It's actually gotten kicked down the road further than I would have ever anticipated. So why would I stop to think that it could get kicked down the road any further? No, it could. Maybe 2023 is not till we see these big price explosions, because again, the relationship that we see in Bitcoin's price right now is the same reason why I believe the stock market was going up. We're seeing a degradation in the US dollar and economy. So just really quickly, I want to take a look at the US dollar because it's found its way in the top part of this channel and it hasn't come back down. We saw a strengthening dollar likely under the fact that there's so much bullshit coming out about the Brexits and all these other excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Have a little bit of Arcane coffee. Okay, back to the game. So, with the potential degradation of the dollar here, the stock market had burst into new all-time highs, just briefly. Now it made what looks like a very clear double top, and it's coming back down to test the EMA. Now, will it bounce here and continue to make further extensions over the next year into new all-time highs? Again, for those of you that had joined us in early 2017, when we were way down here and we started talking about the price of the stock market just going up continually because of the degradation of the dollar, there's a lot of people that argued against that. There's a lot of people that said, oh no, the markets are going to crash, da-da-da-da-da. But I never want to bet against the la-la land anymore in any shape or form, whether it's in the traditional markets or whether it's in the blockchain and Bitcoin space. I'm not going to bet against irrationality, because every day there are new suckers in the market, and new suckers bring whole new forms of irrational behavior to everything that's taking place. And it's a great quote. It's like, oh, I used to think everyone would figure this out. But then you realize apparently there's an endless supply of fucking suckers. So again, this is a really important time for the S&P 500 as well as the DXY. This is why we keep an eye on these, is because there is an intimate relationship, not between the S&P 500 and Bitcoin necessarily, but definitely between the US dollar and Bitcoin. Again, one of the reasons why I suspect Bitcoin has the price evaluation that it does is because the US dollar is fucking worthless. This always kind of upset me too. All the people that give flack to Tether, it's like, look guys, we should be stoked about Tether. Who cares? At least they were not the Federal Reserve printing money. At least they were like on our side to some degree. They were helping push the blockchain space up further than it could have gone, because we needed on and off ramps like this. And they're like, oh, Tether's not backed by anything. It's like, neither is the fucking US dollar. Like, when did we forget this? The whole reason everybody invested into Bitcoin and blockchain is because the US dollar isn't worth shit. Essentially, right? Fiat currency has always collapsed to zero because there's inherent problems in just printing money. So, excuse my rant here, but what I want to get off my chest is understanding why these things take place. It's a privilege to have an evaluation in terms of monetary assessment. You will realize that if you're dying somewhere where you have access to only food and water or Bitcoin and gold, you're going to take food and water, because at one point survival outweighs anything, because the valuations of things change. And this has always been one of the hard lines in the conjecture, is if we see something like the 1930s with global food shortages. Okay, so for instance, can I look up corn, ladies and gentlemen? If we go and look up corn on the Arcane Bear, how does everyone feel about that? Actually, corn's priced quite low right now. Look at that. Look at you go, corn. And it's breaking above its EMAs. Jesus Christ, look at the daily chart on corn. This is absurd. Anyways, the point of this is I think we're going to see rising prices in commodities such as corn over the next few years. I think we're going to see food shortages and difficulties in producing food. I was fucking shivering in my bed last night. I live almost on the tropic line of the Ecuador. Well, I live in the tropics, absolutely, but almost of the equator, excuse me. And I was fucking shivering last night. I had to grab extra blankets. I was cold. And I live in the middle of the jungle. Why is... Look, now I don't want to get into the conversation of climate change or where it's coming from. It's probably the fucking sun for anyone who can just, ask a simple question. Where's all the heat coming from? Oh, the sun. This seems like such a simple answer. Maybe I'm just too dumb to understand anything more complex than the sun. But at this point, anyways, I don't want to drop down that fucking rabbit hole. The point of this is, if we start to see any problems that really change the way survival mode goes in for the majority of people, we don't have the privilege to assess value in terms of the way we do nowadays, because everything is going to come down to how much food and water do you have. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or this year or the year afterwards, but I think that's on the table for the next 10 or 15 years, because in the 1930s, people were well equipped to deal with food shortages and lack of business because they already had farms. They were making their own bread. They were making their own products and services and fixing their own shoes. Today, the average human doesn't have any skill set to take care of their shit if we were to hit real survival mode. So that's always on the plate too. Remember, that's one of the black swans that could drive prices of everything down. Now, very shortly afterwards, as we had the economy kick up again, this is probably when you would see a massive surge in everything. Anyways, so let's keep this short. Bitcoin's price, easily to see that it could go somewhere between $10,000 to $12,000. After that, who knows, right? I'm going to keep a close eye on this space because I'm not going to take out irrational exuberance right now. But also, I'm going to remind myself that there was still the downside potential based off what the futures markets had done to this space before for a very, very fast and sharp, what this was, 63 days, 68% drop, right? That's what that represented. So, again, I'm not keeping that off the table because the futures have done this to this market before simply by changing the sentiments. They don't even have to deal with Bitcoin on itself. They can just change the emotional sentiment markers, and that seems to do the trick as well. Anyways, what the hell else did I say I was going to look at today? That was LTC and XRP. I'll take a look at that. So we made a call in the private bear den. We were watching the crossover in XRP. I hate our XRP, but I like speculative value takes. So a bunch of people saw that, entered as well. So we'll take a look just for everyone. Again, with LTC, we bounced right off this line. This came out in last the last publication we did on the private den newsletter, or not newsletter, sorry, our notes. We've just been sitting there. We've gone all the way to the top and outside of the bear claw on the 1 day. So here were the entry targets, bang, 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 and then here's where we've broken above. Now again, is this going to turn into a really big cup and handle? Only time will tell. It will really highly depend on what Bitcoin does. So we're keeping an eye on Bitcoin and Litecoin at the same time. Again, we're potentially looking for a cup and handle extension that could bring us all the way up to point like 0.25, maybe even higher, 0.28 of Litecoin to Bitcoin. So that would be really interesting to see, but again, we haven't seen a confirmation of that. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to see the handle go lower, or sorry, higher, not lower than it did. So the fact that it went lower almost is a sign of taking that idea off the table for us. Now let's look at XRP as well, because we had a crossover a few days ago that made this an interesting entry point for us. Again, these are all part of the private bear den in and out ideas. There's so many great traders and people that are learning too. You know, it's really interesting. I've taught music throughout my lifetime. I can play the drums, the flute, the guitar, the clarinet. I can even play the didgeridoo, god damn it. Anyways, the point of this is there's something really important about teaching someone else something. Because when you see someone from a beginner standpoint, when you've had maybe 10 years of practice, you learn a lot from the beginner about making mistakes and what mistakes they're making, and it really helps reinforce the higher levels of education that you might be at now. Learning as someone that's taught other people before, the best thing you can do to learn more is to actually teach other people, because if you can clearly and simply explain to someone else what's happening, and that's what's been happening in the bear den. Private bear den is you have all these different ranges of experience in this space, and everyone's doing so much better because of that. When you have the student and the teacher come together as one, it's like exponentially stronger than just the student or just the teacher. This is where synergy really starts to make a lot of sense. So first off, thank you to all the Arcane Bear community making the private den such a beautiful place. Now, you know, our first real target for XRP here is around 6083. So around 6,080 Satoshis. This would represent the potential for 16% move up. We were looking for the top of the bear claw actually on this first jump. So it looks like it might be making that wave 2 now. So if you scroll in on the daily, so everyone that's here as well, thank you for joining us. If you can, smash that thumbs up button, smash the thumbs are upper button, and more views, more likes, more comments, more ad revenue. No, I don't care about the ad revenue. That's YouTube does though. YouTube actually likes that. So that's why we run ads, otherwise we take them off. Anyways, so here you can see on the 15-minute chart a much clearer picture of the wave that just started to uptick at the early of yesterday. So for those of you that caught that, it already represents an 11% gain, at least to the top. I usually look for more mid-range ideas. I look for the breakout point, and then consolidation. So if you play to the mid-range of the trade, it's only around 6%. But either way, if you're doing 1 to 2% a day, you're killing every hedge fund out there. Those guys dream of gains like that. So this is one of the other reasons why I don't want to take off just the potential for Bitcoin to run off into total fucking la-la land and maybe go to $100,000, because everybody likes gains. The big boys like gains too, but the big boys also note that they can make a lot of money while this is going down. So they want that too. They don't just want straight up. They want to be able to wipe out all the weak hands and all the schmo-schmos, flep-fleps, and schlong-schlongbers who ding-dong to bladder-blanks on the BTCzers, on the XRP fams. Anyways, I don't even know what I'm saying, but something like that. Let's take a look at some of your guys' questions. Again, I think I made that very clear. For any of you that would like to join the free Telegram community, those are the links down below. Great chats going on there as well. The community at large is very beneficial. I'm so grateful to be a part of the Bear family as well. So I'm going to take a look at all of your guys' wonderful questions. So this is a great way to start in. Let's take a look. Oh, nice. Everyone's talking about the sun in the background. That's hilarious. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad we can all roughly agree on that one. What's wrong with the human civilization? Let's take a look. Okay. Nathaniel says, Tio, you taught me the fibs almost 2 years ago. I hope that's been profitable and lucrative for you. I hope that it's helped. The Fibonacci is one of my favorite characters in terms of mathematics. For those of you that don't know, I'm a huge fan of Tool. And If you know why I like Tool, you also know why I like Fibonacci. Anyways, let's keep that in mind. Hold on, let's answer a phone call. Here, hey Annie, you're live on stream with us right now. Can I call you back in a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Say hi to Annie, everyone. We'll see you guys again soon. I'll call you back. Okay. Next question. Next meme. XRP is a Bitcoin killer. That is not even close to truth. XRP is not a Bitcoin killer. They're not even in the same fucking category. XRP at itself is its own killer. Again, if you're betting on XRP, you're betting on the banks, and the banks are the ones that are being replaced here. Bitcoin and blockchain remove the middleman. XRP doesn't. It creates room for the middleman to be stronger. So XRP will inevitably probably worth jack shit, squat, nothing, because it has no real value to what the rest of the space is offered. Anyone that thinks faster and cheaper is better doesn't know that love takes time to invest, right? Let's just use love for an example. You want to get laid fast and cheap? That's called a hooker. You want to get laid with like a real longevity? That's called a wife. The investment level and the speed at which these two procure themselves are vastly different. Wealthy decisions do not come quickly, and nor are they fucking cheap. So XRP right out the gate has two very prolific problems with it. It's more like a hooker than it is a lover. And if you want a hooker, great. That sounds like a great time. Just like I said, look, XRP for 10% this morning. That's a hooker ride. I hope I'm not offending any women by saying this stupid shit. God, I'm such an asshole sometimes. Anyways, XRP has nothing on Bitcoin. That's for goddamn sure. How high can XRP go? Okay, well, see, here's the speculative question. I'm actually interested that, the pumps that come out of XRP are important because they offer speculative trades. They offer that quick, fast, cheap money. And that's, we don't really like that necessarily, but you don't want to lose it and not take advantage of it while it's there. So again, for XRP, I think the first real line of resistance that you'd want to break out from on the next wave is approximately 6,000 Satoshis. After that, it's going to have a real hard time getting outside of the 7,000 Satoshi mark, but it's possible to go to around 7,700. Again, it's likely we will see this. So we're on the daily right now. Let's take a look at the 4-hour and see if we have anything. See, on the 4-hour, we've still been in along the exhaustion play. And here, actually, the 4-hour is showing us a really beautiful signal, too. If we close above this 200 EMA on the 4-hour, that's going to look really sexy. So we'll keep an eye on that again, because this represents not a huge potential, but at least another 11 to 12% on the short term. Again, for something like XRP, I have no long-term evaluation. I think it's absolute trash. But that doesn't mean we won't take value from it off the table this time. I'm not going to be married to my philosophical concepts while doing short-term intermediary interests, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to be married to something in terms of just trying to gather value off the table. So XRP has a lot of room for speculative potential, but long-term, conceptually speaking, in my mind, it's garbage. It's trash. It doesn't bring anything to the space. And anyone that doesn't realize that, I don't think is doing their homework. Remember, look, XRP was around when I first bought Bitcoin, and I looked at Ripple. I'm like, oh, cool, I could buy some Ripple. And then I started reading into what it was. I'm like, and look, well, I'm good friends with one of the people who originally created the Ripple Foundation. So Ryan Fugger, I would drink coffee with quite often before Bitcoin was a thing, and he's one of the original software developers for the Ripple project. See. Or is it let's kind of ignore the rest. I'm a web decentralized developer consultant, founder of the original Ripple project, now carried on at ripple.com. This is someone I was having conversations with on the daily, drinking coffee and like smoking spliffs and shit. We were just chilling out and talking philosophy. So they started off with a pretty good philosophy, but it very quickly veered off track. That's why Ryan left. Anyways, the point of this is, if you veer off the track of the philosophy and the concept, you're worthless. The concept of Bitcoin removes the middleman. The concept of blockchain can remove the middleman. XRP adds more value to the middleman to keep their position. That's not going to last, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to remove fucks like that. Even Binance is an exchange. It's going to have to drastically figure out what it's going to do next, because everything's going to go the way of decentralization. Everything. At least we can hope. And for those, let's see if I can play the new Arcane Bear logo schmogos here from the top. Will it do it? Yeah, you like that, a little bit of a decentralize everything and empower everyone kind of mentality. That's why I showed up here. Anyways, okay, let's take a look. Raven have some downside. Okay, well let's take a look at Raven. Yes, Raven has lots of room for downside, actually tons. So let's take a look here. On Raven. So Raven is actually, for those of you that are in the private bear den, you're going to actually receive the newsletter in a few days. So I'm not going to give too much of that information away for free, but essentially you can see it very quickly here. There's the downside potential for around 350 Satoshis quite easily. Again, matching what we had done before and maybe even lower. I mean, you could see it come as low as 310. The only thing that we were looking at Raven for, which is the private bear den members got a few days in advance, and hopefully I know a few of you are able to take a ride from, was this 40 to 50% move that we saw coming weeks in advance. We had been watching it all the way from the 2nd of May come down, and we were looking for the bottom, and we started taking positions around 580, 590, and we sent you guys a bunch of that content there too. So keep an eye on that. Again, we could see another bounce. It's really important to note that when you look at the one-day chart, we've actually been consolidating around the 200 EMA, which means we might not go lower. So currently, even though I expect we're going to go lower based off the previous wave's behavior, we have a lot of support here at the 200 EMA right now. At least that's the way it's looking. But as you can see, every day since we had that nice 40% spike, the volume candle has not been able to close above the bear claw, and that's a bearish signal. The fact that we haven't gotten above the bear claw in volume, even on the third bear claw up, is not a good sign. Again, so Raven, I do suspect there's more downside potential. Nadaline says, I love how you compare things in your life. It brings tears to my eyes and your truth. Oh, thank you. Just so everyone knows, like I'm a human being too, right? I'm full of faults and mistakes and problems and human error. You know, all I'm really excited to do is share my opinion. So as long as everyone recognizes that this is just my opinion, it's my personal growth experience, I think there's a lot that can be taken away from this. XRP is in bed with the governments. With LTC having BCH coming up before the BTC having, big boys can't smash it that much before doubling the price sticks. Yeah, with the CME they can. We've seen that very clearly in the silver and gold markets. With the CME, they can smash sentiments because these are institutional investors that are playing. They're looking at it from a different angle. They've got naked shorts on Bitcoin essentially through all of their paper trading nonsense. Backed is the only one that's looking at not doing that, but that hasn't been implemented yet. CME futures is already on the table. Bear believes in Dash over Bitcoin. No, that's not true. Although I do have Dash in as part of our investment thesis, and all of that will come up to the private bear den in the next 2 or 3 days here. Let's take a look. Oh, do you have any thoughts of Cardano, and why do you want to go to Australia? Okay, well, I can't really tell you guys exactly what we're doing in Australia yet until we've been more concise with the project details and management, because we're looking at closing some potential deals already. So I want to keep everything out of the radar until we figure that out, because it's not a small gameplay. And I mean, once you realize, well, whatever, I won't go too far into that, but hopefully I'll be moving to Australia to do more work in the areas that I've talked about quite in depth, for those of you that listen to my, where my passion's coming from in terms of my skill set. So let's take a look at Cardano, the ADA, ladies and gentlemen. Do I even have it on our list right now? Nope, I don't. On Binance. Nice. Okay, so we had warned, so we actually had a few bear members take profits up here with ADA before. I said I didn't really like it. It looked a little too weak for me. Anyways, the point of this is we've fallen below here on the very strong VPR support line at around 1134. We'll probably come back up to test the 1134 range, and then from there decide. You can also see how not only, well, the 1134, you've got the mid-range of the bear claw and these two EMA crossovers that are looking very, very close to a range breakout. So for instance, we could jump with Cardano or ADA here to the top of the bear claw EMAs, the blue one here, for a 20% jump, and then, well, most likely we'll hit the yellow one first, which is our 50 moving average versus our 100. So there's probably easily room for another 12% jump here. But again, we won't know until we look a little bit closer. So if we take a look at Cardano and ADA on the 1 hour, we're actually seeing a strong potential for a breakout on Cardano right now. Yeah, you're correct. See how we've gotten above the 50 EMA line here? We didn't break down through the bottom of the bear claw, which is super important as well. And it looks like we're about to break our long cloud. So it's very easy to think that we might see an extra 4 or 5% today alone, and then maybe even a little further. Let's see where the next so the next line I had drawn here was 11.15. So again, there's the potential for 4 or 5% pretty easily here on Cardano, but not interesting enough for me. I'm interested in a little bit more consolidation out of this one first. But again, we'll know after it breaks here. I usually look for a little bit longer term breakouts. Again, on the hourly, we're still on the daily, we're still below our short cloud. Actually, we're just at the tip of the short of the cloud. So here, this yellow line, we're just butting up against that. So if we can break through and close above that on the daily, things are going to look quite a bit sexier for Cardano. But at the current moment, not my particular interest. Okay, we'll do a few more questions, and we'll go from there. Can you explain the difference between USD and USDM? I have no idea what USDM is, so no, I cannot. I am from Brazil, and I'm grateful to be in America, but I do love my country. Brazil is a beautiful country. I love that. So do you think we're overextended on BTC right now? Yes, we are, but we could still go higher because we live in a totally irrational world. So let's keep irrationality on the table, and remember that there's always enough suckers in the market to buy at the top. So the top might be 11 to 12,000 before it turns around. Again, watching it daily here is the best thing we can do. Australia is great except our $50 packet of cigarettes. It's a good thing I don't smoke. Hey, I love that. I actually used to smoke spliffs when I was younger, but no mas. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. I really, so actually I'll just answer Nathaniel's question here. Should I hold stable coins to hedge against the dump? No, you generally, as long as you have access to fiat, why would you hold a stable coin? On-ramps and off-ramps for fiat are pretty easy nowadays. Anyways, it's up to you. Both of these things work fluently. It depends on the type of businesses you're managing in your far side. Like, people often confuse the fact that, so let's use the ginger tonic company that I own, for example. I own a ginger tonic company that's making around $3,000 a month, but I don't get any of that. That just goes all back into the company every month because I want the company to be worth way more than that. If I started taking little chump change bits from the company, it wouldn't be able to grow and expand. So what do? You just let it do its thing. So I don't get that money. Even though I own the company, I don't get anything. There's this, it's the same thing with the newsletter. All we do is keep pumping whatever money you guys sign up with to produce more content, to hire more writers, to bring in more interesting ideas, to book more podcasts, because it's just to bring more value to you so that we can grow even bigger. No, anyway, so people often misunderstand how business works. People think that if you're making money, you're just go straight into your pocket. If you know how to manage a business, it doesn't go into your pocket, it goes into the business. That's why Amazon was unprofitable for so many years, is because they just kept spending everything they made on building the business bigger. That means they didn't make any profits, right? Because they spent it all. That's actually a brilliant idea, and that's what people should kind of understand. Anyways, we're going to dive off for the rest of the day. Thank you for joining us. Give us those thumbs up if you like this content. Remember to join the free private Telegram channel with the links down below if you're interested in it. Sign up for our private newsletter. Again, with great reviews like this, there's a bunch more. You can see why I only bought a year's membership up front, because there wasn't a 2-year button. That's probably my favorite quote so far. We've had such stunning reviews. And again, remember, the power is of the community. It's not just going there and be like, oh, what does Tio have to say? It's going there and finding out that having an extra 200 or 300 eyes on what's going on in the sphere makes us all more successful. This is Tio with the Arcane Bear. I'm signing off for the rest of the afternoon. I'm actually working on a vlog today called Making Something from Nothing, which I think will help explain a little bit more clearly why I might be moving to Australia and the work that we'll be doing there. Again, business is important and growing it is also important. So we're going to be diving off. Again, thank you guys for all your support. Leave your comments and your questions down below. Remember, if you leave a snarky comment, I fucking hate typing, so I might leave you a snarky comment right back. If you leave a kind comment, you might make me like typing a little bit more. I generally leave a comment back. It's kind of the way it goes. You want shit, I'll give you shit. You want kindness, I'll give you kindness. It's kind of up to you. Still with the Arcane Bear. Oh, and one more time, let's watch that sweet new graphic. Wow.